Jesus, I surrender. Make me Savior, Holy Fire. Let me feel thy Holy Spirit. Truly know that thou art mine. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. Oh, I surrender all. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. Oh, I surrender all. I surrender all.
Hey, it's a girl Shensia with a message to you from myself and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Shen Yangs, everyone say wear a mask where the numbers drop. I don't want COVID, lay you down flat. Nose and mouth, you fi cover up that. Oh, 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 oh. Sanitizer, get hospitalized. Fight the virus, then fight for your life, yeah. Nobody talk about say you no response no more. Don't be reckless, cause your test say you're not happy. You can still get the virus from somebody. Don't be reckless, cause your test say you're not happy. You can still get the virus. So keep the numbers down. Protect yourself and the people.
Oh, well, yes. Welcome, listeners and viewers. This is Rebel Radio. And you know, we are ready to serve you a mental prepare. We have your mental diet prepared today. And you know, one of the issues that we have at Rebel Radio is that last year when we look at the figures and the number of road deaths, you know, I'm sure that all Jamaicans were and are concerned about the number of persons killed on our roads. Yes. And so far this year, the latest data is 67 deaths since the year started. Yes, it is lower than last year this time. I think it was in the 70s last year. But 67 is way too high. Way too high. Yesterday alone, you had 11 fatalities on our roads in Jamaica, including 5 at Temple Hall. These were motorcyclists. I understand they were coming from a party. And they crashed into a minivan. 5 died. 3 on the St. Mary Highway in the morning, right? And 3 elsewhere. Now, this is totally unacceptable. We have to do something about how we are driving on the roads. And, you know, from all indications, speeding is one of the major causes of our fatal accidents. Not bad roads, No, not bad roads, because most of the accidents, when you look at the data and look at where these accidents occur, you will find out that most of the accidents occur on some of the best roads in the country. We have to do something about this. This year there are two things that we would like to see. And we would want all Jamaicans to bear this in mind and do whatever we can to address this matter. We would like to see the murder rate go down significantly, not by 5%. No, not by 5% at all. A significant reduction. And we would also like to see the number of road fatalities reduced dramatically. You know, we have with us this afternoon, one of our, public commentators, Lucius White. Mr. White, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Leslie.
Boy, I know that you must be concerned about the number of fatalities on our roads.
Yes, why it is heartrending, to say the least.
Yes.
But I am of the opinion that we're not going to get any dramatic changes. As a matter of fact, it is my opinion that in search of dramatic changes, we have missed the boat, and consequently what we get is increases annually rather than decreases.
Wow.
And the emphasis on increased penalty rather than transformation and culture is the situation. It is my opinion that the police force and the fire brigade need to have special persons whose sole duty will be to go from school to school.
Yes.
A program where they address, like, from kindergarten to age 8 or 9, and from 9 to 12 at different stages. They have a program to address how each individual contribute to their own safety with how they use the road, and the culture to recognize that your safety means something to you, your family, and the community. Now, if you have a situation, one of the real problems is this culture of speeding.
Yes, sir.
But there's an arrogance that go with speeding, because if you look at the evening news almost daily and you see the nature of the crashes and the results, any rational person would come to the conclusion and say, boy, speed is a problem, so I should not be indulged in speeding.
Yes.
But the arrogance in most people is that when they see the crash, they say, I don't have no skill. If he was more skillful, he would avoid it.
Yes.
And they may even tell of instance where they had some near misses, but because of their skills, they have survived. But they survive one and don't survive the other, and then become the news the next day. You have, like, the motorcycle crashes, you have this thing where they play chicken, where you ride facing each other at mad speed, and the chicken is the one who veer first. And so in order to prove your nerve and that you are not the chicken, sometimes both are, one of them end up dead. And these are the kind of things that you have to teach to develop a culture of not to be involved in those practices. I remember I had a teacher who said there are no accidents. Accidents are caused, they don't happen. So if you do things properly, accidents are avoided.
Yes.
No, it's sometimes it sounds harsh, but it is a truth that for an accident to happen, somebody did not do something that they ought to do.
No, it's true. That is factual. We can avoid some of these accidents. We can. I am not saying we can avoid all of them, but we can avoid a significant number.
A lot of them could be avoided, and if we observe that little thing that they call the speed limits and what have you, it sounds foolish, but you know, even if you had some of the accidents that occur, if the speeds were lowered, the results would not have been as catastrophic.
Yes, sir.
But you see, we have the culture where you don't speed to avoid getting a ticket. In other words, if you know there is no policeman, you will drive way up into the sky. But you can't allow your life to be dependent on what other people require of you. Your first duty would be supposed to be for yourself. And if you stay within the limits, you are doing that duty to both yourself and your family.
Yes, sir.
We ought not, and we have to encourage the observation of the road traffic laws that, look, you're not doing anybody any favor. You're doing yourself a favor. And the fact that you may do something and don't get a ticket don't mean to say that it is right or that you won't pay the consequence of something happening, and as a result of your speed, you pay dearly for it. Mm-hmm. I strongly recommend. Some people will say we can't afford it. We don't have the personnel. We need to afford these personnel. We need both the fire brigade so that they can teach people and advise children early out not to introduce fire into the home. And the police teach them how to use the road and to interact. These are people who wouldn't be on the front line with them big guns, but they would be doing the mental transformation that is required in the culture of the people to avoid what we are experiencing. Because it is sad. I know the road safety people spend a lot of money advertising and they try and do a good job. Yet every year the number tends to go up rather than go down. So it means that not that what they are doing is wrong or weak, but it means that we have to do something in addition to what they have been doing. Yeah. And I would strongly recommend that at the school level, and I'm saying as little as kindergarten, need to be taught how to use the road. Have you ever seen an adult carrying a little child on the road, and them have the child on the outside in the traffic?
Yes, I have seen that. But
all of these things happen, and I think it's more out of ignorance. But if you start to get it into the heads, especially of the children, that the children say, "But no, mommy, I'm supposed to be inside," and get this thing, nothing will happen overnight. And if you're spending money in the year, as I'm suggesting, somebody going to tell you that you're wasting people because they're not being productive. They are being very productive, and it will reduce the amount of trauma cases that go to the hospitals and all that sort of thing.
But Lush, tell us now, how are we going to get into the heads of these drivers, these young drivers, the younger drivers, for them and try to drill inside their heads that, listen, let us cut down on the speed. How are we going to get them to obey the Road Traffic Act? Because I don't think fines. You know that the Road Traffic Act has been revised, right?
Yeah.
And we have stricter fines right now. But, I don't think that by itself is going to reduce the number of fatal accidents. I don't think so.
No, that by itself won't.
Because you made a point early on about how some of the drivers think. That they are talking about, they believe that they are skillful enough. So you will hear them talking about, boy, what happened on the road last night? I was on the road and I had to do this and I had to do that. Talking about trying to show off their skills, and this is where the problem is.
That is my firm opinion that is really one of the root cause. But like I said, this is not something that's going to be corrected overnight.
Yes.
Some of us older folks went through that phase, and God been so good that we come through all right. But it is something that needs to be taught long before people even start driving. That speed kills, and don't talk about your skill. Speak about what you ought to do not to get into the situation. People driving, a lot of them don't have a clue as to the capacity of the vehicle. So they start to overtake. Their vehicle may be going 60, 65, and it don't have much more to go. And they start to overtake a vehicle. And the next thing you know, they reach down to the corner and they still don't finish overtaking yet. And then there's all kind of excitement. Altogether, as the age grouping go, you can introduce the science and all that into driving. But the first thing to get into is the discipline of obeying the rules of the road.
Yes, sir.
And it is not going to be easy. There's no short-term fix to this. We can hope, but there is no short-term fix to it. And if it can be arranged that the police or the safety officers get some sort of forum where you can get the younger people to attend, whether at youth club meeting or something, where you address them as a group of youngsters about the importance of thinking about the safety of self, and that the rules are there to protect you, not just to restrict you. It is to protect you. And whether there's a police or there's a camera, ought not to be the factor that determines whether you conform, because conformity in this case is a big tool in self-preservation.
Yes, sir. Yes. Boy, I don't know, but it's just like the murder rate, because we at Rebel Radio, we want to do whatever we can in order to help to bring down the murder rate this year. We certainly don't want at the end of this year, whoever lived to see it, that we are counting 1,000 Over 1,000 murders in Jamaica. We want that to go behind us.
It's a long time. We have not been at the 1,000 mark, you know.
A long time we have not been what?
A long time we have not been down to 1,000.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You see, again, we have a situation where everybody is excited to get down the magical figure. But the way, in my opinion, again, is at the preventative stage. And it is my opinion that as long as we have classes in schools where you have the 50th and the 50th and the 40th to one teacher, and then the teacher also have to get them settled in time to do the work, and they have to try and meet the curriculum, it means that very few of them are going to get the attention that weaker ordinary students require. And when you have a school system with 30% of your children go through the system and come out illiterate, you are definitely creating material for the crime industry. And the answer to it is you must employ more teachers, you must have more classrooms, and you must ensure that children are promoted on merit rather than like age. A child is not supposed to move from one grade going upward merely because they have served the time in there. It is the proficiency at that grade that should earn your promotion. And when you, by whatever manipulation of your statistics, send children to high school who are illiterate, you're only wasting time and money. Spend the time and let them get the basics so that if and when they get to high school, they can learn. No child can develop comprehensive skill when they can't read. And if you can't comprehend, you ain't going no place. And we find money to equip the police, but we're not finding money to equip the schools. And if you don't correct it at the schools, you are always going to need more resources for the police.
Yes, yes.
So regardless of what anybody wants to do, whatever anybody wants to do, we are not going to get this. Mm-hmm. You figure what I mean?
Yes,
so
I'm following.
It is a case where if we try to get the quick fix, which is what we try to do by increasing the police and the instruments of suppression, without addressing the other thing, which is equipping people, because let's face it, the bulk of your problem comes from far too many of our people are inadequately equipped to earn what they figure they require to live. And survival means that they are going to do whatever it takes to survive. And if we don't train them and equip them so that they can be productive, then their method of destruction is what will haunt us while survival mode is cutting. So altogether, none of the suggestions I've made here will make any immediate impact on the numbers that we see. But if we do not make the kind of investment, which ultimately is long term,
yes,
but it is the way in which we will avoid the consequences of the lack of investment in our people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Because let me tell you something, man. It is
depressing to say that.
Yes. Every year, for the last 20 years, we have had these numbers, these over 1,000 murders in the country, right? And right as we speak, the numbers are climbing. Yes, they are down. They are down lower than what they were this time last year. But the numbers are way too high. And as you point out, that we are producing material for the crime industry.
That is the regrettable reality.
Yes.
And it is a case of misplaced priority in how and where we spend money.
Yes.
We I don't care what anybody wants to say. Every penny spent or contemplated spent to build a new parliament is an act of treason against the people of Jamaica, where for 50 years you have children going to school and shift, and where class size and student to teacher ratio is what it is. We can't spend money to make the sitting of parliament more comfortable for people who refuse to do what it takes to improve the people's lot.
Yes.
And without you I wouldn't only say spend money on education, but see to it that when money is allocated to education, cronies don't thief it out, and you still end up with the children not getting even what is allocated. Mm-hmm. And these are things that ultimately, that form of corruption is the sort of corruption that affects the society to the core.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And until we recognize that we have to correct it at that level, the condition will continue to creep upon us, where we get is more, the more hopeless the people become, is the more barbarous and more dangerous the criminality prevails, Yes. If you notice, there was a time when the criminals would wait and try to break a place and all that. No, they don't have to wait. They're not waiting to break. They are attacking.
I mean, just not long ago in Portmore, in broad daylight.
That's right. Because they figure that the opportunity is best at that time, because if the money reach inside of the bank and all that, them will have problems to dig down the place. So they will attack.
Yes, they attack a security, some security officers delivering money at a financial institution in Portmore. Understand they took 10 million and kill a guard. Right? Right? And
peace and stop producing the criminals by underinvestment in proper training of our people. The skills training places need to be increased. We need to have more people doing productive work. And if we have them doing productive work and earning decently, I am sure that people are not inherently bad people, but people become what they become environment.
Yes.
So it may sound away, but that's how it's gonna be until we have really done the changes. And I don't believe the changes lie in me giving up any of my constitutional or civil rights. What is involved requires that we train and educate our people and do it deliberately so that we can advance a productive future.
Yeah, and another issue, Luce, is that you would have seen where the government has introduced measures, stiffer penalties for murder. You have seen that.
Yes, I've seen that.
But you know something that is not promising. I saw where some experts were saying that these stiffer laws might not reap the kind of results that is intended. In other words, no, because let me point out something, and I'm sure. Yes, you have the laws, but you have to take offenders to the court with evidence so that the laws can be applied.
Yeah.
If you take offenders before the court and you cannot present a good case, then they are going to be set free. You can't convict them. So yes, and right now when you look at the cleared up rate for crimes, serious crimes in Jamaica, it is something that it triggers a lot of questions. The cleared up rate is too low.
Of course.
And also the conviction rate is too low because what is happening here is that the rate is low, and then getting the right material so that the prosecution can advance a strong case that can be where the offender can be convicted.
Increase the probability of conviction.
Yes. So therefore, yes, I am not saying it is a bad move to increase the penalties so that somebody who comes...
Yeah, but that might itself is not going to act as a deterrent.
No.
The greater deterrent is earning conviction.
Of course.
And if you are not properly organized, you'll neither get arrest nor conviction.
Yes.
And if you look at it, you know, this system where cases take 3 years and 2 years and 5 years to be tried, it's wrong. You can't expect to have how many thousand cases and you have the same amount of judges and the same amount of prosecutors. You get these years of pile-up. Now, by the time the people reach court, the people who are supposed to give evidence either gone, get fed up, are dead. So altogether, there must be a greater urgency in getting cases before the court. But what happened? Over the years, how many additional courthouses have been built? What expansion has there been in the judicial system in order to facilitate the number of cases? Now, civil-wise, people are getting more legitimate. So people want to carry more cases to court. But you can't carry to a court because it's a waste of time, because it's going to take you 5 years before your case gets a hearing. And these things lead to what let us call it unorthodox resolutions. And altogether, we must recognize that you have to make the resources available to expand the system to give the service.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it is important for us to realize that you can't talk about a civilized and caring society in which you don't have a proper system to deal with conflict.
Yes, yes.
And we go back to class size. When one teacher has 40 and 50 children who are not necessarily coming from an environment of discipline and control,
yeah.
you realize the problem. Sometimes it starts inside a class and finish up somewhere else. We need nearer supervision, and with the weak home structure in many cases, it means that the schools will have to be so fortified as to increase the greater ways of socialization. So there is no quick fix to this thing, and it's not cheap. But one thing I can tell them is that if you think you can't afford to spend it at that stage in the remedial work and the preparation work, you're going to spend it at the back end when you have to deal with a hopeless set of people who have turned to a life of crime as a method of survival.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. The other thing, Luce, you might have seen that the JUTC is facing a $14 billion deficit. In other words,
yes, but are you surprised?
No, I am not surprised. But listen what I am surprised about. Now, we are being asked, taxpayers are being asked to fund that deficit, 14 billion, in order to keep the buses on the road. Now, right now as we speak, the service offered by the JUTC is worthless. People are waiting hours before they can get a bus. So the service is in disarray, right? No, I am not saying that the bus service should not be subsidized, you know. But what we are getting now, as service from the JUTC is shameful. And
yes, but that is not accidental either, you know. Yes. Because when the Minister of Transport adopted as a policy to give license to anybody who wants a taxi license, you give a taxi license to anybody who wants it. And then you allow people to get routes on the income earning routes at the JUTC. And then hypocritically, you don't make any incremental increase in bus fares in order to make the statistics show that transportation cost has not increased because it's going to increase. You have a situation that these distortions play out in your reality. The amount of taxes that are there means that there is compression in JUTC earning. And the increased cost of energy to the bus people and the taxi people. The taxi people have a problem, and the bus people won't come to us, the taxpayers, to foot all of these bills. Yes. It is not by accident. Under the whole Road Traffic Act and Transport Authority Act, before you grant any license to anybody, surveys usually had to be done to see if there is need for increase in numbers and where and how much. When you open up the thing like that, like how they have done, the results of what you get in the overcrowding and the rat race with the people trying to scrape up how much they can scrape up is what you'll get. Mm-hmm. We are reaping from what we have sown. It's a bad, rotten policy, which was popular because people say, well, every man gets a chance and it's survival. But when you shape it that way, it means it's more suicide rather than survival.
Yes, sir.
So what you are getting, and of course, you can't ignore the effect of the cronyism that caused them to load the JUTC with party faithful who are not necessarily competent people. And when you get that kind of cronyism, in addition to the structural fraud policy of overcrowding the street with taxis, then what you're getting is what is the fruit of the seed that has been planted.
Okay. Lucia, I want to thank you very much for your contribution. And
My pleasure, brother.
Yeah, as usual, we have to share these ideas because the situation in front of us is very, very bad.
Very, very distressing.
Yeah. Yes, that was.
All right, bro. Blessings to you.
Yeah, that was Lucius Watson, and Lucius White, and we'll share ideas. Well, next coming up at 3:00, it is. Will be sure. Let us take a break. This is Rebel Radio.
Ocean. Our love is in need of sweet devotion. Come on, because you got the notion to bring out the love in me, and I will bring out the love in you. Let the rebel in me touch the rebel in you. What is to be will be. Come me just a come me just a come, and me no want no botheration. Come me just a come me just a come, and me no want no botheration. Come me just a come, me said that come me just a come. No want no botheration. Come me just a come me just a come, and me no want no botheration. To hear Jordan roll, roll Jordan roll, roll Jordan roll. I want to go to heaven when I die, just to hear River Jordan roll. Soul in the bosom of Abraham. Rock my soul in the bosom of Abraham. Rock my soul in the bosom of Abraham. Oh, rock my soul. Rock my soul in the bosom of Abraham. Rock my soul in the bosom of Abraham. Rock my soul in the bosom of Abraham. Oh, rock my soul. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, is over, I fly away home to our home on God's celestial shore. I fly away home. To glory, fly away home. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I fly away home. Fly away home to glory. Fly away home. When I die, glory, hallelujah, by and by, I fly away home. Fly away home. I will fly, yeah, fly away home. I will fly away home. Amazing grace, how sweet, sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. First believe. Are you with me? So amazing grace, how sweet, sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once and sneers. I have already become forward squares that brought me safe this far, and the grace will lead us home. I'm amazing grace, how sweet, sweet the sound that saved our face like me. Was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I can see. I was blind, but now I see. God in the day is still God in the night. Life is easy when you're on top of the mountain. You've got peace of mind like you never know. Yeah, but things change when you're down in the valley. Don't lose faith, for you're never alone. For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley. When things goes wrong, He'll make them right. And God of the good times is still God in the bad times. The God in the day is still God in the night. You talk of faith when you're on top of the mountain, but talk them easy when life at its best. But it's down in the valley of trials and temptation. That's when your faith is really put to the test. Lord of mercy, for the God on the mountain is still God in the valley. yes, God in the night. Lord of mercy. When things goes wrong, make them cry. Yeah. Oh, bye. Lord of mercy. God in the day. God in the night. All I've got now is all to Jesus. I surrender all to Him. I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily. Jesus, take me now. I surrender all. I surrender all. All to Thee, my precious Savior. I surrender all. To Jesus, I surrender. Make me Savior, Holy Christ. Let me feel Thy Holy Spirit. Truly know that Thou art mine. I surrender all. To Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily. I surrender all. I surrender all.
Yes. Good evening again, and welcome again to Rebel Radio. You know, this time is when we present our program, Be Sure. And Be Sure is that program aimed at getting you in a position to take care of business, or business will be taken care of in time of emergency. And we have already established that in times of emergency, one of the agencies that will bring in assistance, will bring assistance. And we are talking about cash, which is always required in emergencies is the insurance industry. And, you know, we have with us our usual guest, Mr. Lloyd Brim. Lloyd, are you there?
Very much good man. Good evening to you and your listeners.
Yes, sir. And, you know, one of the things that we would like to discuss this evening, we want to really take a look at the role the insurance industry plays in the economy. For example, we know that the insurance industry is one that employs labor. So it provides employment. We know that duties are paid, taxes are paid to the government, because it has the insurance companies have to be licensed, and therefore the license are provided by the government, so they have to pay for it. So yes, they are there to provide assistance during times of emergency. And as I said, we want to take a look at the importance and the role that the insurance industry plays in the economy. Lydie, you want to share some of your ideas on that with us this afternoon?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Desmond, and to your listeners. One of my mentors always say, get out your notebook, because you might not need the information right now. But for now, it's free. If you wait until you have to go searching for it and so on, it's going to cost you. So let's start by, as you said, Desmond, the employment. The industry operates like every other industry from the point of view that it has general staff that can move from one company to another, such as accountants and people like in the personnel department, marketing department, and so on. But there's a set of workers employed in the life insurance industry, which are very, very crucial, and these are called actuaries. Now, the actuaries are the people with all the calculations that are necessary to cost the policies, to cost the projects that the industry involves in. I'll say a little bit more about the projects. And it also has specialized training for the sales staff that matches the requirements of the insurance industry. In addition to that, the company, not the company, the industry, all the companies do, they pay significant sums in taxes. You know, you have stamp duties. When an insurance policy is sold, stamp duty and other fees, government fees, have to be paid to make it a legally binding document. Again, every time a policy is sold, the company takes on a liability. This liability that the company takes on is significant. Now, each liability that the company takes on, there must be some asset to back that liability. A very important item in that whole transaction is what we call reinsurance.
Before you go there, hold on, let me just back up a little. So we are saying that as far as contribution to the economy is concerned, the industry provides employment for workers.
A wide range.
Yes, And we are talking about thousands of workers.
Absolutely.
So here it is that in the industry, there are jobs for thousands of people.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you went on you spoke about duties that has to be paid for and policies sold. So that is revenue for the state.
Yes, and
Yes.
make it legally sold.
Right. And then you were talking about reinsurance now. What is that?
Okay. There is a limit to the liability that the companies can take on to themselves. And then there are liabilities that, to be sure, if they fall due, the company is in no difficulty to pay, such as the death benefit, as one example, the main part of the policy. Let's say the industry, the companies decide if they can carry, say, let's say $5 million risk on a policy. They have enough resources to take care of the $5 million policies if people die with that amount of coverage. But then, of course, all we have been talking about the different uses of life insurance and so on. There are significant coverages that are sold, both for business transactions, for estate planning issues, and these kind of stuff. The company cannot leave itself 100% exposed to these $100 million claims and, you see, 500, 1,000, multiples of millions. And the regulators of the industry, they have to make sure that the company can handle these liabilities. So there is this route that we call reinsurance.
Mm-hmm.
The company, you are insured, Desmond, for $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
No, the company will not carry all of that risk by itself. So the company goes to what is called a reinsurer. So you are insured with company A, but your liability is then reinsured with a bigger company.
But that company is usually overseas. It doesn't how that contribute to the local economy.
All right. Well, every transaction has some legal fees and government fees that has to be paid. So when these reinsurance activities are taking place, the company is actually transferring some of the risk from itself to the reinsurers. These are large international companies, and the volume of business that they are doing. What is a backbreaking liability for our companies is just a drop in the bucket for them. So to make sure that the companies can handle any life insurance claim that it faces, the authorities, the regulators, ensures that reinsurance is a part of the company's operation.
Mm-hmm.
You die, the company does not have the resources to cover $300-400 million worth of claim. So it turns around and claim on the reinsurer. And that's how they get this guarantee. That's one way to be sure that you will never make a life insurance claim that is justified, all conditions met, etc. And the company cannot handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So to be sure the companies turn around and put this safety in place. Now, as I said before, all of these transactions that are taking place attract government duties. And then understand that we're having a $1 trillion budget for the first time. Have you heard that?
Yes, of course.
Good. So you know the government is going to be extremely stringent now in enforcing the tax laws and the collection requirements and the punishment and penalties for people and company who fall into ruin as far as paying their taxes is concerned. That $1 trillion budget is cutting edge, is new grounds are breaking. And
yes, of course.
These taxes, these duties, they all come together along with loans and borrowings and beggings and so on to finance the budget. The company, life insurance industry, also do a lot of investment. And you know that the investment sections, the investment departments of the industry, they make significant contribution. Let's say you're going to have a new company going on the stock market. It has 40 million, 50 million stock units. The insurance industry puts a lot of money in this kind of business. These transactions again require government fees and taxes to be paid.
Yes.
So the company, in its general everyday operation, it has to pay a lot of tax. The companies do a lot of real estate. If you look around or if you follow the newspapers, you will see. If you're driving past Guardian Life, for example, there are lots of apartment buildings constructed there and are for sale. So their real estate activities also generate a whole lot of taxes for the government. But having constructed these apartments, put them on the market for sale and so on, this is contributing to the company's profit as well. So again, the companies will have to pay significant amount of, let me just call it profit tax for the time being, so we can all understand. So the profit that they make on their operations also attract taxes.
So, in a nutshell, what you are saying, Lloyd, is that the insurance industry is a major contributor to the government's tax revenues. And we know that those tax revenues are used to run the country. These are the revenues that the government used to fund services, public services for the citizens. Right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, you know, earlier in one of our episodes, I recall us looking at and saying that it is advisable that insurance coverage should be bought to take care of, let us call them, the cost at illness and costs after death. So funeral expenses. And I recall you advising and telling us that it is a worthwhile investment. as it relates to those kind of benefits. You repeat them for us now, please. Just enlighten us again why it is important for that we should acquire insurance coverage for post-death expenses.
Well, these expenses can be significant, Desmond, and it can destroy people's inheritance. Because when you have a house value $100 million and you leave it to me as a part of your estate, I'm a beneficiary. Now, John Brown has an insurance policy that values $100 million as well. So the two estates are exactly the same in dollar value. I want cash for this piece of real estate that I have inherited. I am slated to inherit. No, I am going to have to pay stamp duty, legal fee, probate fee, executor's fee, stamp duty, all of these kind of stuff to get that 100 million that is tied up in the concrete and steel. That represents, out of 100 million, about $26 million, which is 26% of it. So I have to go into transactions to get this $26 million to make it happen. No. John Brown, Mary Jane, whomever, inherited a life insurance policy of $100 million. There is absolutely no cost for them to get this 100 million. Once the conditions are met, document-wise and so on, once these conditions are met, the full 100 million is paid over to the beneficiary without any tax at all being deducted from that.
Mm-hmm.
It might have taken the real estate owner almost a lifetime or so to come up with this piece of real estate, to start, build this stuff and so on, and end up with this building. But the $100 million life insurance policy is created, that 100 million asset is created by what we call in the insurance industry the magic of paper and ink.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So therefore, listeners and viewers, you heard that. So the advantages and disadvantages. The $100 million estate, it has to go through processes before you can fully inherit that property. The insurance policy, of course, you have to go through processes too. But the main difference is that at the end of those processing is that you will get a check for 100 million, while you will end up, the other person will end up with a payment of 74 million. And I mean after those expenses are covered. Right. But the other thing, Lloydie, that I would want you to repeat for us is the fact that you can also have an insurance policy that will take care of death benefits, so that there is no burden left on the dependents to find those funeral expenses.
Well, we mentioned first about the inheriting the real estate and inheriting the insurance policy. No, the money from insurance is always to cover expected expenses upon the occurrence of a given event. So for the funeral expenses,
Yes.
you can have a life insurance policy dedicated to that. And this is what we call estate planning. And a part of it would be your final expenses.
Yes.
So you can have a policy dedicated for funeral expenses. And usually, when people get in Jamaica, you say, you are go up in age. These policies become more important and usually are a last resort for people to buy. Usually is the children buy these policies for their parent. Why? The parent die, these expenses will fall on them. So they will get these policies and have them there to cover funeral expenses. Just like you have critical illness policies, there to cover the critical illnesses. So we can dedicate policies to specific causes.
Mm-hmm.
The individual who's going up in age, as we put it on the street, can also buy the policy for themselves.
Yes.
They
So
can
up to what age?
76 years old, nearest birthday.
Mm-hmm.
76 years old.
And of course, what are the prerequisites? Such person would have to do a medical report and what?
We usually stay away from medical reports when it comes to that type of policy.
Yes.
Unless the person is doing it at an earlier age when they can do the medical if required.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can choose to do the medical. But most times we don't, in the industry, we don't ask for medicals for some type of policies. You have policies that you call coupon policies or instant coverage policies. You have policies that when you sign up for the policy, you have a 2-year waiting time. That if the person dies
Mm-hmm.
in less than 2 years, the full amount is prorated. 1 year, 50%, 18 months, 75%, 24 months, the full 100%. But I think we mentioned it the last time that if somebody comes into the office, purchase one of these policies, pay up the premium, sign up all the documents, going back home to tell the children what they have done or to tell the spouse what they have done.
Yes.
By accident, they are killed before they reach home. That policy will be paid in full. You have to wait 2 years, 6 months, nothing like that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you need a skilled and experienced agent to take you down these different roads, different avenues in the financial landscape.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let's mention one more thing, Desmond, you and the listeners. The real estate transactions that take place, whether while you are alive or in the probation of your will, so on. These transactions have to pay a lot of tax, and these activities have to be monitored and approved by the institutions that are responsible for the let me say, the atmosphere, soil, air quality, the type of soil that the things are being built on, and whether they measure up to the real estate and other laws. What's the purpose of the land as indicated and the title? What neighborhood you're in, whether you can build 2 stories, 3 stories.
Sorry.
All of these things come in into the mix.
Yes.
Again, to this man, we cannot do this without mentioning the pensions.
Mm-hmm.
So, our
Yeah.
life insurance company have a pension plan, and you are thinking about down the line. Again, as you go up in age, pension become of great concern. So you can buy into the company's pension plan. But
Yeah.
who says when the time comes, the company is going to be able to pay? The company have this liability to you. How can the company ensure that they can meet these requirements?
How does one go about buying into the company's pension plan?
Repeat.
How does one go about buying into the company's pension plan?
Well, you talk to me, the agent, or you go into the sales and marketing, customer service section.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we're out on the road. Insurance policies, the insurance product is not a product that people come searching after in general. It has to be taken to them, a presentation done, and inform them. And then a decision is made by them. The decision is not made by me, the agent.
Yes.
The decision is made by the person who will reap the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So, in coming to that type of conclusion, I am labeled as an assistant buyer.
Yes, because you are the one. You are the one who, as you said, you agents must take their duties to take the product to the potential buyers
And show the benefit of getting the product,
Yes.
and get it before the need arises for the benefit to flow.
Yes.
And we always like to say, look here now, this is the magic of paper and ink, because this magic happens many, many times. Like I said, somebody bought the policy going home, motor vehicle accident, or stray bullet, or bullet meant for them, whatever. So the company, to be sure, to ensure in all the transactions that the clients, having done business, they will have a peace of mind about any such occurrence that they're planning to finance.
Mm-hmm.
They will be required to finance.
Okay.
I hope, Mr. At your health minister's name, sir.
Dr. Tufton.
Yes, I hope Dr. Tufton is somewhere listening, because with peace of mind, illnesses are reduced. So we're contributing in more ways than one. We provide the policies for the critical illness and so on. And in doing that, the onerous financial burden that is brought to bear when life comes to an end, when disability comes in, when critical illness comes in, all of that area that the insurance industry takes care of. it is to make the faith ministries work less in terms of people coming under stress.
Yes.
That's what we can go on in that.
Yeah, I'm getting a feedback. I'm wondering if it is coming from you or it's coming from my side. Yes, Lloydie, the other thing is this now. We just wanted to go back a little. This question about it was about business insurance, and you were talking. We went through the different stages, right? And just to go back to the sole
Operator.
the sole trader.
Yes.
And as we know, the sole trader takes all the risks, and therefore he or she reaps all the benefits. We know that. Yes. But I recall you telling us the advised sole traders, and of course we know we have many of them, how they can use insurance to protect their assets and also to make it easier on their dependents. You want to just go back a little there for us?
All right. Before I do that, Desmond, let me just interject one point here, that with good accounting practices and good accounting guidance, when the sole trader or businesses generally, when they purchase life insurance, the accountant is the expert on the tax laws, and you can get tax relief for some of the premiums that are paid. So a sole trader who has proper insurance and his accounting records are in good order, the premiums that he pays does not go unnoticed, because the tax laws allow him to claim, allow businesses to claim some of this insurance premium expense as tax deductible because it's a business expense.
Mm-hmm.
The people need to know, get good advice and professional advice so that they can use the tax dollar. You are going to pay 100,000 for life insurance premiums. You will charge that off as a tax deductible expense because it's about the business. Now, I am here to say to the business community that the money you refuse to pay to get proper insurance and so, that money still will not remain in your coffers because the taxman, the tax authorities have a claim on that money. And they only release their claim when the money is used to cover a business expense. Just like you cover the truck insurance, the forklift insurance, the equipment generally insurance, because they are being used for the business. It is the same way that the life insurance premiums can be written off against your tax liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So the taxman is not 100% evil, but he's suspicious, and he will look every corner and every crease to ensure that no money is there out of his reach.
Yes, he wants to ensure that he is in a position to collect what belongs to him.
Yes.
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 It's easier to give it up willingly.
Yes. But you just repeat for us the importance, and we're talking about sole proprietors now. Just repeat the importance of acquiring insurance to protect, as I said, assets, and to relieve, to make it easier, less burdensome on dependents in the post-death period.
Well, it is so important, no matter how many times we repeat it, it gets more important each time. Because the sole trader, remember, he's taking all the risk in the hope of reaping all the benefits. Now, if you take all the risk, you get all the benefits. Nothing is wrong with that. But in taking the risk, in carrying the risk, you're exposing yourself to your estate being totally destroyed. How totally destroyed?
Yes.
If you don't have the money to carry out the procedures that needs to be carried out, then the same benefits that you try to hide from the taxman and the benefits that it's going to be spent defending court actions. It's going to be spent for expenses that could easily have been written off at business expense. And one of these, I might just tell you, I'm not sure we mentioned this before, but I will take this opportunity to mention it. Keyman Insurance.
Keyman.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Explain what is that?
All right. Keyman Insurance is insurance that the business puts on its key employees. The key employees are employees who are actually the heartbeat of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to that again. The Keyman Insurance is for the employees who are the heartbeat of the company. Get that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. It means then that the key person is an asset to the business. And if that key person's services are lost to the business,
Can be detrimental.
Disaster will set in.
Yes.
Because all kind of expenses cannot be paid because there is no cash. So the tax authorities, the tax laws, allows the business to buy insurance on the key person. So this insurance for a sole trader would be a business expense, or for any business at all. It would be a business expense because this person is an asset, just like you insure equipment and buildings and so, because they are assets. And any destruction of these can spell disaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way, the sudden death and unpreparedness, where the sole trader is concerned, is going to affect the family, it's going to affect the standard of living, is going to reflect in a serious crash of the entire family assets, the entire business assets, because everything is based on the sole trader. But
Yes.
now,
Yes.
you can estimate what such a liability would be.
Mm-hmm.
Have your insurance agent help you to prepare an explanation to a set of people that I didn't mention earlier. These people are called underwriters. Who's the underwriter? What does he do? The underwriter examines the application
Mm-hmm.
for the insurance and makes a decision, yes or no. That's a special type of person.
Okay. Okay.
And we as agents, as I said before, we are assistant buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So working on behalf of your client, you have a duty to make the case to the underwriter
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that regardless of how much life insurance coverage is applied for,
Mm-hmm.
there's a good chance that it will be approved. So the underwriters are the people who you make the case with. You put the case to them,
Mm-hmm.
provide all the information, and a decision is made. So we didn't include that earlier when we said they use specialized staff in the insurance industry.
Yes.
This is one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like people say on the streets all the while. Intelligent people, professional people, as well as man in the street people. They don't speak well of the insurance industry. They don't speak well of the agent, the advisor,
Mm-hmm.
because they are misled into believing that the life insurance salesman is there to work for the company. You're not there to work for the company. You are working for your client.
Mm-hmm.
Working for your client means giving the best advice. Secondly, making the best presentation to the underwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the company benefit from the salesman's activity. Because if no applications are being approved, then no revenue will come in.
Okay. That's where we have to end this week's program. And I want to thank you very much for taking time out to give us your advice and what to do in order to be sure. So, thank you, Mr. Lloyd Brim.
Well, thanks to you and your listeners, Desmond. And next week or in a later program, we can just review what we did today.
Yes.
Upon any points that we missed out, whether in the interest of time or the heat of the discussion. But we can review, add some more to it, and give the insurance industry more credit than it is given today by the people who we approach to become customers and make them be sure and enjoy the peace of mind that one requires to keep your blood pressure down and to free yourself from the worry of your dependents, especially the underaged, people who are going to final stages in their education, or even those who have the whole educating years ahead of them.
Okay.
The companies have policies dedicated to the education duty of the parents.
All right.
So that's one thing we can probably add next time, because we didn't touch on that at all.
Okay. Yes, sir. So thank you. That is, Be Sure, as we said, the program that is aimed at getting you ready for eventualities. This is Rebel Radio. Let us go for a break.
Touch the rebel in you, and the rebel in you can touch a rebel in me, and the rebels we be is gonna set us free. Then it will bring out the rebel, bring out the rebel, bring out the rebel in me. The lover in you can touch the lover in me, and the lover in me can touch a lover in you, and the lovers we be will bring sweet harmony. Then it will bring out the love, bring out the love, bring out all the love in me. Devotion. Come on, because you got the portion to bring out the love in me, and I will bring out the love in you. Let the lover in you touch the lover in me, and the rebel in me will touch a rebel in you, and the lovers we be will bring sweet harmony. Then it will bring out the love, bring out the love, bring out all the love in us. My love is deeper than the ocean. Our love is in need of sweet devotion. Come on, because you got the notion to bring out the love in me, and I will bring out the love in you. Let the rebel in me touch the rebel in you, and the rebel in you will touch a rebel in me, and the lovers we be will bring sweet harmony. Then it will bring out the love, bring out the love, bring out all the love in us. Bring out the love. Said I want to bring out the love. Bring out the love. Said I want to bring out the love. Bring out the love. Bring out the love. Bring out all the love. Bring out the rebel. Where do I go? Tell me now. Leaving below in this old sinful world, only a comfort I can't afford. Striving alone to face temptation so. Where do I go but to my Lord? Where do I go? Where do I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul. Needing a friend to save me in bed. Where would I go but to my Lord? Life here is for that, I'm all yours. Well, Lord of mercy. Oh, yeah. Oh God, I'll never find the words, the Lord, to tell you how I feel, dear God. Mere words could not explain. Yeah, gracious Lord, you held my life within your hands, created everything I had, taught me how to live again. Only you care when I needed a friend, making my promise. Oh, this song is for you, filled with gratitude and love. Oh Lord, I thank you. You make me feel brand new. For blessing me, I adore you. Almighty God, I love you. I sing this song for you. Father God, I adore you. Yeah. My Lord, whenever I was insecure, you build me up and made me sure. You gave my sense of pride back to me. Only you care when I needed a friend, making my promise. Oh, this song is for you, filled with gratitude and love. I thank you. You make me feel brand new. For blessing me, I adore you. Almighty God, I love you. I sing this song for you. You make me feel brand new. For blessing me, I love you. Yeah, I really love you. I sing this song for you. Oh yeah.
girl Shensia with a message to you from myself and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Shen Yangs, everyone say wear a mask where the numbers drop. I don't want COVID, lay you down flat. Nose and mouth, you fi cover up that. Oh, 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 oh. Sanitize or get hospitalized. Fight the virus, then fight for your life, yeah. Nobody talk about say you no response no more. Don't be reckless, cause you test so you're not happy. You can still get the virus from somebody. Don't be reckless, cause you test so you're not happy. You can still get the virus. So keep the numbers down. Protect yourself and the people you're around. COVID in town, 6 feet apart and 6 feet in the ground. Keep the numbers down. Protect yourself and the people you're around. COVID in town, 6 feet apart and 6 feet in the ground. Stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive.
When you have troubles, don't cry. Oh no, no. Just remember that God is standing by. Hold on, yeah. When you have heartaches, don't cry. Oh no, just remember that God is standing by. Sometime when your burden is down, just remember God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So there's no need to cry. Oh, God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So don't you worry and don't cry. No, no. When you have troubles, don't cry. Oh no. Just remember that God is standing by. When your cup running over, just remember God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So there's no need to cry. God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So don't you worry and don't cry. Oh Lord, yeah. Forget about your troubles. Forget about your pain. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome back. And it's time for Workers' Time. You know, this is a program that we use to find out what is happening at the workplace and to look at solutions or what must be done in order to make the workers happy. And we have with us the president of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Mr. David Wan, and president of the Joint Trade Union Unit, Mrs. Helen Davis White, with us. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Desmond. Hi, David.
Yes.
Hi, Helene. How are you?
Yes. And therefore, we want to welcome both of you to Workers' Time this evening. And Mr. One, I would like to start the ball with you, the opening. Want you to take the opening over. So lots of issues at the workplace. For example, I saw where there has been some calls for shorter work week. And as you are aware, the government is now in discussion with public sector workers over wages and fringe benefits and all the other issues. So from where you sit, what you see happening at the workplace this year, sir?
All right. I want to stick with the topics that you mentioned. This study that was done, I think it's in the UK, about the 4-day work week and experimentation with it. While it may be a good idea to explore some of the benefits of that and the drawbacks, I think we need some more information about the types of companies that were in that study and the size of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when we look at it, we feel that the industry in question is very much a relevant factor. For example, we've done an assessment of the Jamaican workplace.
Yes.
And we estimate that 70% of the jobs in Jamaica are not conducive to, for example, remote working because they are essential jobs. And also, that factors into this whole concept of, you know, should we look at the 4-day work week? Because if you look at it very simply, an establishment, a micro business with 5 employees, if they were to suddenly say, listen, all of us, you know, instead of working 40 hours a week, let's work 32 hours. That's 8 times 5 is 40 hours of I'll call it man time, whether it's a cashier, whether it's a, you know, a cook, a driver, you know, being affected. We have 40 hours less, and a lot of times that is employees who are dealing with customers. So a lot more has to be taken into account. Do customers want their service establishments like supermarkets, pharmacies, furniture stores to be closed on the weekend, for example, if the new dispensation with everybody working 8 hours less means that we can't open on Saturday anymore? All of these have to be taken into consideration. And not only that, if the establishment has to go and hire new people to fill this 40-hour gap in that same example I just talked about, you're talking about an increase in expense for the employer without any increase in revenue. And yes, there's argument that people are more motivated and productive, and I would be a lot more motivated and productive if I could get the same compensation and work 20% less. You know, so there's no argument about people are more productive and, you know, motivated if they have to put out less for the same amount of money. So a lot more needs to be done to look at that. It is not everything that is applicable to the first world that is applicable to Jamaica. You know, and I think many times we tend to pick the ones that we feel are good for certain things while not picking the ones that would mean, you know, something else for each person. For example, it is well established in America that everybody, regardless of whether you're on PAYE or not, you file a tax return each year. Whereas in Jamaica, if you're on PAYE, you're not required to file a tax return, only if you're self-employed or run your business. Yet I don't hear anybody clamoring to do that so that we can get more money to fix the potholes in the road and fix the hospitals. Because if we require everybody in Jamaica to file a tax return, I am willing to bet you we'd collect more money because people have to disclose their income from worldwide sources as well as other than the PAYE, because a lot of people receive, other income than PAYE while they're working on the job. So I say all that to say a lot more analysis is needed before we can decide if this thing is applicable to Jamaica and can work. So that's my opening back, sir.
Okay. Mrs. White, what is your take on this idea?
Well, I think I would agree with David that it may not necessarily be a one-size-fits-all solution because you will have differing industries, being able to do something like that and with different results. So, yes, it could not be something that you just adopt wholesale. You'd have to determine, where it could be implemented and to ensure that in terms of service delivery, it's not affected and, the access to the service by the clients is also not affected. So, but I think wherever it can be implemented, it should be implemented. Because this experiment was in the UK, but I know in several Scandinavian countries they have already gone that route. I don't think necessarily for the entire workforce, but for certain industries they have already gone that route. The truth is that from some of the information I have, even where the employers had to actually have, reorganize how they carry out their activities and so on, and sometimes it ends up costing them a little bit more upfront. The kind of results that they get both from the clients and from the workers is such that it sort of evens out at the end of the day. But I will tell you that this issue of working time is something that, it depends on how people look at their particular situation, because in Jamaica, we are able to have a 4-day work week, but it is a longer work day. Maximum 10-hour workday is allowed in Jamaica under the Flexi Working Arrangements Act. And so, we may have persons already who are onto a 4-day work week, but they work a longer work day. Some persons prefer that. Others are wedded to an 8-hour work day, and so, they will not move to a longer work day just like that. I in fact have some members who want to work 24 hours on and 48 hours off. They feel that that's a better organization of their time. Unfortunately, they are not able to, based on what our laws now say.
Yes.
They cap additional hours up to 10 hours based on our particular laws, but they are clamoring to work a 24-hour day, and it suits them in their particular industry. So I think in anything having to do with working time, one has to look at the particular circumstances, and once you have a situation where there's not much dislocation either to the workers or to the clients, then it should be something that is encouraged, I believe.
Yeah. Mr. Wan, from where you sit, you see, what, if any, are the implications for the government, the new wage structure that they are negotiating now with? In other words, will whatever is settled in the public sector, how will it impact on wages in the private sector?
Okay. I think it's generally accepted that the compensation for any given post in the government is less than the similar post in the private sector.
Yes.
So this process that they're going through right now, I think is good in the sense that, you want to be able to attract good people into the civil service and in government service. So it is a good move. Now, the devil is in the details because we have all heard the cases where some people, because their travel allowance is now counted as salary, and there's more taxation on salary than a travel allowance, so you have to pay NHT and NIS on a travel allowance that became a salary. Whereas a travel allowance, you might only pay the 25%. I don't know all the details, but all I'm saying is there are some instances where some persons even end up getting less, as I've seen specific examples. So those have to be worked out. But in general, it's a good move, and it is also from a global, countrywide perspective. I think it is manageable at this time because A, we recovered from COVID, and B, the things like the gas tax have given us an excess revenue over what we expected because gas price went up so much, and tourism is back to the pre-COVID levels. And, it seems like it is manageable because, yes, it's going to cost more money, but in a sense, some of that extra cost was already being carried as a travel allowance, but now converted to a salary. So the impact is not going to be as great as we thought it would be overall.
Yes.
So I think it's good.
But what is your take on the minimum wage, Mr. Wan?
I think the minimum wage is something that, every 3 years, I think they look at the minimum wage and see if it needs adjustment. I think we need to make sure that in setting a minimum wage, if we're thinking of moving it, significantly, is that we need to understand the needs of rural enterprises as well as micro and small entrepreneurs. Now, I'll give you some specific examples. Last time around, when they were talking about examining the minimum wage to see if it should be increased, there was an island-wide, call it querying of people and business and workers about what they think the wage should be. And what came across clearly in the ones that I went on, in this tour around the country, was that the small hardware merchant in Manchaniel told us clearly, listen, if this goes up more than X, I'm going to have to lay off one of the 4 people I employ because I can't afford it. And, compare that to Kingston, where you have big companies who it really, doesn't impact them as much. So we need to take into account the impact of rural enterprises who may employ 3, 4, 5 people and what it does to them if you move it too much. And we all want people to have a living wage, but it's a balancing act. You might create a problem if you move to what is determined as this so-called living wage. What it might have fallout in employment in the rural areas, for example, and small businesses in Kingston and the metropolitan area.
Yes.
They have a more difficult time adapting to big increases in the any kind of minimum wage or general salary levels, etc. because they are small and micro business. So that's my feedback for you.
Yes, but when you look at it, that the cost of living is general. In other words, so it impacts those who are on minimum wage and those who are not on minimum wage.
All right.
So when you look at the cost of living and look at what the minimum wage is right now, don't you see the need for some, I wouldn't call it significant either, but some increase where those who are getting minimum wage can be able to afford the cost of living?
Yes, I agree. And listen, as a federation, we subscribe completely to the ILO principles of decent work and so on, which means that, we need to move as close as possible, as quickly as possible, to the point where a minimum wage is a livable wage. That's a goal that I think everyone in this country has.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something you can just flick on overnight because there are domino effects that could end up putting you in a net worse position than you were before. if you move too suddenly, too quickly. It needs to be done carefully. You know? So that's my take on that, sir.
But yes, but I want a final question on that one.
Yeah.
What would you say should be the wage that could fit into that balancing act that you are talking about right now? What would be the weekly wage that you think could fit there?
Well, you know, I think you asked me a very tough question, because before you answer that question, we all have to agree what is the basket of goods that someone at a very modest level of pay needs to survive. And I don't think we have that well defined. You know, I mean, certainly you could identify a basket of goods if we all sat down and said this is the minimum. But do you want to include a subscription to cable TV? Do you want to include, you know, eating out once? I mean, it's a very subjective thing. Some people can get by with a lot less because they're disciplined. Some feel like they have to have all the bells and whistles and conspicuous consumption, no matter what level they are. I mean, so that's a very difficult question to answer. You know, we have to define what is the minimum goods and services that a person needs to live.
Yes.
And I don't know if we can define that on this program.
Yeah. Mrs. White,
Yes.
you think you could define what would be the minimum wage right now that a worker, we should be looking forward to pay a worker in order for he or she to cope with the cost of living? Because I think all of us are aware of what the cost of living is right now, and I'm just talking about food.
Mm-hmm.
What per week? What would you recommend for us to start at? In order, and I'm saying in order for the employer, and I'm talking about all employers now, are able to pay without closing their business or it impacting negatively on their business, and also so that you can maintain the employment, and at the same time the worker is in a position to have a basic meal. What would you suggest?
Well, I don't have the figures with me, but one of the things that we generally do is actually to look at realities in terms of a basic standard of living, so to speak. And so some of the times what we would use is look at what it takes to feed a family of, say, 5, 2 adults and 3 children. And we're talking about very basic products. I mean, tinned mackerel and, those chicken back, that kind of a thing. So we would use that as a means of trying to determine what should be done. The other thing that we would look at is the cost of accommodation, of housing. And when you put those together, just those two, you are looking at a substantial increase in the minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The truth is that when you do that, you may have to bring it down to an individual, as again, say, when we spoke of family of 5 and so on. But when you look at all of that, it really is a substantial increase. And general, what you come down to at the end of the day is, hold on a minute, please. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just trying to find a document that I had done recently, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah. Yes, because the truth is a minimum wage should at least be able to provide the very basic necessities for any working person. Our minimum wage at $9,000 does not do that. The very least we think that should happen is that we need to look at the inflation since the last increase, and at least to take account of the inflation since the last increase as a very basic thing. But our submission over the last several years is that we should in fact be moving to a livable wage.
Yes.
And we believe that what should be happening is that we should be setting, not just have it as something that we would like, but have it as a goal, and therefore, how do we arrive at that goal, that goal post at the end of the day? And so we believe that what should be happening now, while you're still dealing with the minimum wage as we now do it, that you should be putting things in place for us to be able to transition into that livable wage. Because the truth is, when we look at $9,000 per week,
yes,
I really don't know how people survive on that. I really don't know.
The last number I looked at, that was last year, where I saw where the number at the time they were saying that it should be increased to $15,000 per week.
Yeah.
Mr. Wan, you don't think that is affordable at all levels?
Well, here's how I would answer that. I don't think you can look at compensation all by itself in a vacuum. For example, suppose the government took the lead and said, we're going to raise the minimum wage for our people that work for government.
Yes.
So let's pick a number, to 13,000, for example. I don't think the government should look at it solely on compensation, because, for example, should they then reduce the benefit on the PATH program, because now more people are going to be able to afford some of the things that they get through the PATH program, and other social welfare programs, should those be reduced because they have increased the minimum wage? Those questions need to be answered, and I think, many times when, initiatives like these are questioned and, said, should we try this? I frequently say that the government should take the lead and help us to chart the way. Similarly, was things when they were thinking about the flexible working arrangements. I think more can be done by the government in demonstrating to the private sector that flexible working arrangements is good. For example, the tax offices should be open till 6 or 7 p.m., using flexi arrangements. That should be open on Saturdays.
Yes.
If the government takes the lead in that, then a lot of private sector people will, adopt the flexible working arrangements to a greater degree. So, I am saying, I think it needs a holistic look, and, for example, to decide how this thing is brought into being, because I think we all have the goal that we want to make that livable wage for everyone who's working. And so that's my answer.
Yes. Well, Mrs. Davis, what has so far, what has been the last time we spoke, there was some restiveness in the public sector. For example, I see where some public sector workers went on strike today, complaining about wages. I know that the last time we spoke, the firefighters were upset. From where you sit, Mrs. White, what are you seeing at the workplace now?
Well, for public sector workers, what we can say is that the agreement that was signed, I think, covers probably about 60% of the public sector.
Yes.
And of that 60%, we probably have a quarter of them that are still dissatisfied. But we have a fair number that are satisfied based on what has come out. And that is a problem with an exercise like this.
Yes.
It is not an across-the-board increase, so it affects different persons in different ways. And just to indicate, based on the information that the pay bands that were developed arose out of a survey of private sector entities. The truth is the government of Jamaica indicated that they could only pay public sector workers in the second quartile, which means that essentially the public sector is at approximately 50% of the private sector. Until we have, these large sums that are being spoken of in some areas and government not being able to pay all at one time, what that tells us is just how far off market the public sector is vis-a-vis the private sector. Yes. And that is something that, when we agreed to this exercise, it was something that we felt needed to be done. The unfortunate thing is that, bearing in mind the fact that for those persons, particularly our traveling officers, because of upkeep being rolled into their pay, it provides a situation where for many of them, if we did not have this agreement, that nobody should be worse off, and we eventually extended that to a guaranteed minimum 20% increase on net pay, then that is what has allowed us to be able to settle so that nobody gets any less than a 20% increase on pay. But there's an added dimension to that. Because the government could not pay all upfront, they are paying in 3 parts. And the general agreement is that 80% would be paid of the new rate would be paid in year 1, and the other remaining 20%, I think 10 in each year, would be paid in year 2 and 3. So that makes the situation even more problematic, because if for many persons, if they were converting to the new rate all at once, you would not have the problems that you have now. So it is an involved exercise, and it's an exercise that's comparing jobs one with another, valuing the jobs, and you always have situations where persons are not satisfied with how whatever score their job may have come out with, and we always now have to be dealing with that level of dissatisfaction. What I can say is that a fair number of workers in the public sector are satisfied both with what they receive in terms of retroactive pay and what their new rates are. What we are still trying to deal with are those that are dissatisfied. And the last thing I would want to say as well is that in these kinds of exercises, where it's really, looking at one job in relation to another, pay relationships change. And so you may have situations where some jobs that were at the same level as the old compensation structure, in a new structure, they actually change positions. And when you have that and one person recognizes that this was the relationship before and it is no longer that relationship, that person ends up being very dissatisfied. But it's, almost par for the course in exercises like anybody who has done a job evaluation and reclassification exercise recognizes that this is always a problem in terms of, what are the results and whether a person feels they can live with the results.
Mr. One, are you hearing me?
Yep, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. And this one is for both of you. There is an argument about the payment at the workplace for males and females. And the argument is that female workers who are qualified, doing similar job as male, are not getting pay. In other words, the workforce is still dominated by male getting higher pay than female for doing the same job. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, let's refer back to the public. There's a very well-defined scale of public. And I think...
Speak up a little for me.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes. Yes, I am having some difficulties. I tell you what, both of you, just hold on for me. Hang up and let me call it straight out. We're having some technical problem. Just hang up for a moment, both of you. Yes, we're having some technical issues. We want to just nail them out, iron them out. I can hardly hear my guest. I don't know what has happened, but I'm not hearing them clearly at all. Right? Not hearing them clearly. So I'm just going to try and work it out here again to see what is the issue. To just iron out the issues that we are having right now. But we are having some, really, at the workplace, we are having some there are some serious issues that needs to be ironed out, you know? And boy, I only hope that we'll be able to iron out those issues this year, because we really need to do something about these issues before, if we want to have some peace at the workplace. And we have to have peace at the workplace. We must have a workplace that is where we have some harmony at the workplace. We must have some harmony at the workplace. And right now, the situation is not conducive, you know. Apart from the salaries, we have some working conditions there that needs to be taken care of, and we have to do whatever we can to ensure that they are taken care of. We're still working on getting our technical issues straightened out. We're getting a feedback that we need to straighten out. Just trying to straighten that out. Just bear with me. Let us take a break, and then we just straighten out as fast as we can. Yes, have to.
Right up the road, and I said, Lord, if you just call me, yeah, hold on, yeah. When you need a friend.
for the little child without a father, for that man that doesn't have a place to stay, for that little boy living with hate. This is my story. There's a man standing on the corner. He has no home, he has no food, and his blue skies are gone. Can you hear him cry? Oh Lord, there's a girl searching for a father.
Oh yes, we are back with Mr. David One and Mrs. Helen Davis White. Oh, Mr. One, before we took the break, I brought up an issue where we are talking about one of the issues that I see coming up at the workplace is the unequal pay for male and female. Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
In general, yes. I think it's a problem all over the world.
Yes.
But we also have our issues with that, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you know, so how you think this can be? What are some of the solutions you think we can?
All right. Yeah, let's break it down a little bit. As I was saying before, we have those technical problems. I think that the government sector, with its well-defined salary scales and grades, I think it is less likely to happen there in terms of if a man and a woman are at the same point on the scale. It is virtually impossible for them to be paid differently. It's on the same point on the scale. No. You may argue that a woman, a female, may work much harder than her counterpart in the same scale, and yet she's not moved up the scale as quickly as she should. I think, that's a different issue. And it's something that needs to be addressed in the workplace. You need to have gender equity in compensation. I firmly believe in that. No, that's the public sector. In the private sector, and by its nature, the compensation, is not, a private sector business owners are not obliged to publish to anybody their pay scales, So it is much harder to define the scale of the problem. But I've been talking to my friends at Capri who are working on a project to try to bring to be more transparent about the whole gender pay issue. So, for example, they are lobbying the stock exchange to get the stock exchange to mandate any company that's on the exchange, it's a work in progress, not done deal yet, to have them disclose how they stack up in terms of the females in the company and the males and the levels that they are, and are they compensated differently. Mm-hmm. So that would help in a certain way for those companies on the exchange, because those persons who benefit from the exchange have raised money from the investing public. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it is felt like they have a bigger obligation to share and make sure that they're doing what's right. So that's an initiative. Right. I also suggested that government contracting, when they're putting out tenders, they ought to put a line in tender documents which have a certain weight to it, to ask a couple questions about, your gender pay equity. I don't know the exact questions they can ask, but I'm sure the experts can figure out a couple questions to ask and metrics to measure that would say a company, they're doing fairly well and making sure that females and males in the same classification get the same pay, or in the same job get the same pay. So that's another thing I would like to see. Mm-hmm. Government contracts, let's put a score in there for gender pay equity, whether it's weighted 10% or 15% or whatever. So it comes up in the whole picture of who gets government contracts. Mm-hmm. It's another way that that could be done, because those companies seeking to win those contracts will attempt to make sure that they follow all the guidelines because they want to win the business.
Right, right.
And then overall, in a general way, if there's more publicity brought to it and the whole concept of this is not fair, doing the same job, they should get the same pay, I think more public exposure can be had on that.
Right.
So those are some of the ways.
Yeah. Mrs. White, do you experience that in dealing with your workers?
From a Jalgo point of view, I can't say that because we represent persons in the public sector primarily. And you have pay equity issues arising when, pay or compensation is not based on particular factors that you can actually go in and, rate and determine whether or not a job should be paid at a particular level. So like what we're doing now with the public sector compensation, what you do is value the job based on what are called compensable factors, and these would include things like the level of education needed to perform the job, the level of experience, the kind of authority you have, that kind of a thing. Those are the things that are used to value the job.
Yes.
And so where you have these systems employed, and I would say in most unionized environments, that is how we would argue that compensation should be should be set, not based on whether I like you or I don't like you, or whether I believe you as a woman you should not get the same as a man, and that kind of a thing. Yeah. This kind of job evaluation and classification that I'm speaking of takes that out of the picture. And so as unions, that is what we have used to be able to deal with various pay equity issues, the gender pay equity, external pay equity, looking at one, one organization as against another, one industry as against another, and internally within the organization as well, whether, the various different parts of the organization are paid on a consistent or remunerated on a consistent basis. Once that happens, then you don't have the problem. So, David spoke about Capri. I'm hearing that in, some of the preliminary work that they have been doing, they have found that it really is not a problem in the public sector. It's more a private sector kind of problem. And I would venture to say in private sector entities that are unionized, you're not likely to see that either.
Okay. Mrs. White, you made a point earlier on which I did not observe. We're talking about the public sector pay package. You said something like, in the first year, what percentage of public sector workers will be addressed? Did you say 80% of the public sector?
No, it's not the percentage of public sector workers. Having gone in and developed a pay plan that says at each level of that pay plan, this is the amount that should now be paid. Yeah. The government was unable to pay all of that amount upfront. And so what has happened is that they're paying it in 3 different parts.
Okay.
And so if it was found that I should be paid 100,000 using a figure, yes, then I would not receive the 100,000 upfront. I would receive 80% of the 100,000, and then 10% of that 100,000 in the second year, and the other 10% in the third year. So people are looking at it. Some persons are looking at it as if it is a 3-year wage agreement. It's not so much a 3-year wage agreement as it is a situation where, having developed the pay relationships between the public and the private, and determining that these are the levels of pay that should actually be applied, not being able to pay all of it one time is being paid now in 3 parts.
Yeah. And initially, the government says, I recall that, the minister saying that this exercise, one of its objectives is to ensure that no worker is worse off. But
and that should not happen. If in fact that does happen, as we have said to all our members, once that happens, then that is something that should be reported in, and it will be addressed, because the minimum increase that should be paid is 20% increase on the net pay. But I think one of the finer points of that is that 20% is just as I was explaining before, is going to be the overall increase, but they can't pay it all at once either, so it will be paid in part.
Okay. But just explain something for me now. Those workers who are entitled to traveling allowances. Now, before the exercise, traveling allowances were a non-taxable payment. Now it is taxable. And I think I hear some of those recipients, they are upset that their allowances are being taxed. Does it mean that their salaries will be less?
As I said, because we are doing the conversions on the basis of net pay and not on gross pay,
yes,
it means that you're starting from a standpoint of saying, this is what I would have received net.
Yes.
So I was getting a particular amount after they take out statutory deductions. I'm at 10,000. My traveling is 5. What will be used to convert me in the new scale is at 15,000 net, not gross.
Yes. Okay. I understand. So, for both of you now, what do you see when you look at the workplace this year? What is likely to happen? Are you seeing a peaceful workplace this year with workers, not disgruntled and willing to give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay?
I think we have to sort of break it into two parts: private sector, public sector. Generally speaking, based on what is happening in the economy, workers should be in a better position, but then we have to also plan for things that are happening in the world economy. And with problems in Ukraine and the cost of goods increasing, goods and services increasing as a result of what may be a prolonged war in Ukraine, may cause some more problems for us in terms of high shipping costs, and so which would therefore mean that we have problems with inflation. And we see where the Bank of Jamaica is intervening, trying to hold inflation at a particular level. But there's imported inflation. I don't know that they will be able to deal with it in a substantial way. Yes. But the truth of the matter is that is what I see on the horizon that is likely to create problems. So that even although the economy may be doing well, when you come down to individuals and what is their experience when they go to the supermarket or when they have to purchase any good or service, then that presents a situation that could lead to problems this year if we don't actually plan ahead. One good thing I would think has happened is that the government has this deal, if you may want to call it that, with the IMF, so that they have resources that they can draw on in the event of particular circumstances arising, and that I think gives us a little bit of a buffer. But it is not something that can be used to deal with day-to-day expenses as such, but certainly it should help us help our economy to be able to stay afloat.
Mr. Wan?
Yes. Okay. There's no doubt in my mind that the trade unions have exhibited a much increased level of maturity compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago. Because I think it's been demonstrated that strikes and, industrial action don't really help anybody. The company suffers, the employees don't get paid, etc., etc. And in the recent past, I believe that there's been a lot less industrial action in general in the marketplace. Now, having said that, I think there are some potential areas where you can see some issues, in the coming months this year and into next year. That September 24th decision by the court that designated employees of the security industry as employees and not contractors was a landmark decision. And all the things taking place now to rectify that, make sure they're paid overtime, make sure that they're, getting all the things that they should get as employees. That's in train. Now, the reason I think that could cause some issues, there are some other industries that are structured somewhat similar to the security industry. And, where the court decision is done, and it's a good thing for the security industry employees. But what I think, again, back to the government, what they should do is take this thing one step further. You have a court decision which says, in this particular case with this company, we rule that this must happen. I would like to see the government fine-tune the legislation where it defines what is a worker, what is a contract. So that the other industries, which are structured similar to the security industry, can have a clear idea of what they need to do to decide if the workers in this industry are also employees and not contractors.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I would encourage the authorities.
Well, I want to thank both of you very, very much for your contribution. We have really exhausted our time. And Rebel Radio, this platform is a platform that accommodates what is happening at the workplace. So I'm sure we are going to talk again. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. That was the president of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Mr. David Wan, and president of the Joint Trade Unions Congress, Mrs. Helen Davis White. This was Workers' Time on Rebel Radio. We go for a break.
it's a girl Shensia with a message to you from myself and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Shenyang, everyone say wear a mask, let the numbers drop. I don't want COVID, lay you down flat. Nose and mouth, you fi cover up that. Oh, 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 oh. Sanitize or get hospitalized. Fight the virus, then fight for your life, yeah. Nobody talk about say you no response no more. Don't be reckless, cause you test say you not have it. You can still get the virus from somebody. Don't be reckless, cause you test say you not have it. You can still get the virus. So keep the numbers down. Protect yourself and the people you're around. COVID in town, 6 feet apart and 6 feet in the ground. Keep the numbers down. Protect yourself and the people you're around. COVID in town, 6 feet apart and 6 feet in the ground. Stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive.
The station with the artist station with the artist music.
Unseen angels watching over me. Over precious memories. Unseen angels sent from somewhere to my soul. How they linger, ever near me, and the sacred pass unfold. Precious memories, how they linger, how they ever floods my soul in the stillness of the midnight. Precious sacred scenes unfold as I travel on life pathway. I know not what my ears may hold, and as I ponder of the midnight, precious sacred scenes unfold. Precious memories, unseen angels sent from somewhere to my soul. How they linger, they ever floods my soul in the stillness of the midnight. Precious sacred scenes unfold. So precious memories, how they linger, how they. Real, 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 Christ so real to me. I love him because he gave me the victory. Many people doubt him, but I can't do without him. That is why I love him so. It's so real to me. Real, 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 Christ so real to me. I love him because he gave me the victory. Many people doubt him, but I can't do without him. That is why I love him so. It's so real to me. Press along, saints, press along in God only. Press along, saints, press along in God already. Persecution we must bear, trial and crosses in our way. But the hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory. Oh, press along, saints, press along in God already. Press along, saints, press along in God. When I get home on the other side, I'm gonna shake my hands with the elders, tell Tell all the people good morning. I'm gonna sit down beside my Jesus. I'm gonna sit down and rest a little while. 'Cause it's so bitter when troubles and trials. When I get home on the other side, I'm gonna shake my hands with the elders. Tell all the people good morning. I'm gonna sit down beside my Jesus. I'm gonna sit down and rest a little while. Stand up and tell me if you love my Jesus. Stand up and tell me if you love my Lord. I want to know if you love my Jesus. I want to know if you love my Lord. Stand up and tell me if you love my Jesus. Stand up and tell me if you love my Lord. I want to know if you love my Jesus. I want to know if you love my Lord. I love that man from Galilee, for he has done so very much for me. He has taken all my sins and let the Holy Ghost come in. I love that man from Galilee. I love that man from Galilee, for he has done so very much for me. He has taken all my sins and let the Holy Ghost come in. I love that man from Galilee. So send down the rain, send down the rain, send down the gospel rain. Send down the rain, send down the rain, send down the gospel rain. I beg you, send down the rain, send down the rain, send down the gospel rain. Send down the rain, send down the rain, send down the gospel rain. I want a revival in my soul. I want a revival in my soul. I must apply to the blood of Jesus. I want a revival in my soul. I want a revival in my soul. I want a revival in my soul. I must apply to the blood of Jesus. I want a revival in my soul. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angel bow down before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angel bow down before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. That's why I am determined to hold on till the end. Jesus is with me, on him I can depend. For I know I have salvation, I can feel it in my soul. I am determined to hold on till the end. I am determined to hold on till the end.
First, a story about missed opportunities, chaka chaka, failure of constituted authority, Jamaican character, lawlessness, and entrepreneurship, all in one. This is the 60th episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Good day, Thank you for liking and sharing this podcast and for subscribing to the channel. We welcome your feedback and comments on this channel. Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown offer interesting insights here too. Now to Frankly Speaking, the commentary.
All you do is sit down and eat your food and not.
Some of Jamaica's most favored attractions are not advertised by the Jamaica Tourist Board, JTB, not owned and operated by any licensee or franchisor, not standardized by Tourism Product Development Company, TPDCO. Take the ones in St. Ann, Blue Hole, near the border with St. Mary, at Upton, a breathtaking water pit surrounded by a slice of dense, verdant tropical rainforest. Into this hole, people dive from all angles and positions or get pulled across it. It's run as a kind of free-for-all, which is part of its appeal. Then there is Little Duns River, a sliver of public beach with one of the tributaries of the famed Duns River, clattering down slope, loved by the adventurous. That has been closed. We will look back to it. And then there is a current craze, rafting on the White River just outside of Ocho Rios, under the White River Bridge. The atmosphere of this place is captivating and heady. There is at any one time a cacophony of booming sounds as a backdrop to these lively food shops, some with fish and seafood, alive only hours ago nearby, bars, and more recently assorted trinket sellers and manicurists. It's wrapped in chaos and disorder, from the entrance to the under-maintained road that accesses it all. You are besieged by young men seeking to sell you a ride. It comes from about US $40 to $70 a ride. And Jamaicans have been taking the bargain. Tourists too have been coming there by the busloads, especially from the cruise ships that come to town, and they have a wonderful time. There are two big problems. The entity that has long held the license to do rafting on the White River, Calypso Rafting, has essentially been pushed aside by the new aggressive operators who have taken things up a notch. The new operators have designed covered rafts, decorating them with flowers from the riverbank and draping the seats or backs with the Jamaican flag. It's a beautiful sight if you look beyond the need for proper disposal and cleaning of the river and parallel roadway. There are now too many of the raftsmen and raft hawking, and there are clearly dangers. Frankly speaking, Calypso Rafting Company, run by businessman and former politician Bobby Marsh, wants them gone. His business is now almost dead. The young men are going nowhere. They want a piece of the cruising pie too, and they treasure the independence they've tasted from running their own show and making US dollars. But frankly speaking, it can't go on like this. There's no insurance among them, no standards even of hygiene, no customer service skills, and no organization of calmly getting on a beautiful raft ride. TPDCO has, in the last few months, focused on it and wants to bring some order there. One of the longer established businessmen in that little area, Curtis, who runs Riverside Cafe, has been trying to get some order, improve the aesthetics, and organize the men.
Yes. What is happening here right now is that rafting on the White River has been the best thing that happens to Ocho Rios. It's taking off, it's viral, it's worldwide, all around the world. Sometimes we have 3 or 4 cruise ships comes in the day. Calypso rafting cannot maintain that, cannot sustain that. They don't have rafts like us with the tops, the roofs. That is what everybody is gravitating to, with the flag, with the Jamaican flag. See what I'm saying? So we are upgrade right now. What is happening? We are upgrade right now.
There's about 20 men who have been registered with TPD, had some training, and they contribute to some kind of maintenance fund that helps provide 2 restrooms, among other things. The problem is there are now some 50 or so raftsmen and assorted hangers-on. The police have taken an interest too, saying this looks like a breeding ground for criminality and attraction for the wrong types. They have had to accompany TBD personnel on their visits. And here is where Little Duns River comes in again. That was a UDC property opened up under pressure for the people to have a free beach. And you know, there are not many of those. Mainly young men started to provide all kinds of services there and sometimes force people into accepting those services, whether or not you wanted them, such as being a guide or security or whatever. It attracted all sorts, and the police later determined that a gang was involved and extortion was feeding cash to a gang in a nearby hotspot community. Those now benefiting are prepared for a fight. Why do we allow these things to start, then to flourish, then to fill out with illegality, and we try to take them back? Where are the political representatives, the governors, the organizations that have the responsibility and are paid to take these things in hand, to organize them and their constituents, and to help create wealth and order in the space? On a different matter, but only slightly related, we'll come back to it another day. Frankly speaking, I don't know anyone who believes Desmond Mackenzie's reasons for the postponement of local government elections for the 4th time since the last holding in November 2016. Let's say this: local government elections have been treated as a matter of convenience for too long now. But after Parliament's 2015 action, we were entitled to believe that there would be some regularity to them to strengthen the country's democracy and allow people to change their local politicians at regular intervals. The PSOJ, the National Integrity Action, and CAFE point to the elections as a part of Jamaica's superstructure of democracy that should not be trifled with. Indeed, economic recovery and democratic practices are not inimical to each other and can take place at the same time. But we will come back to that another time. Now, here is Desmond Richards, journalist and founder of Rebel Radio Jamaica.
It is clear that none of the reasons advanced by the government for postponing the local government elections are valid. The economy, according to the IMF and the government, has recovered and is growing. During the last 2 financial years, this administration has collected nearly $200 billion more than it budgeted for from taxpayers. So money is available. And plans to convert Portmore into a parish should not prevent the holding of elections. No, it should not. Of course, we have had elections during the economic downturn, including the last general election. That was when the economy lost 13% of GDP. But apparently Mr. Olness, whose mentor, the late Edward Seaga, suffered a heavy defeat in the 1986 local government elections, that 37 years ago, that is still on his mind. But why is the government hiding? This is a chance for it to test its record of prosperity. It has made the people prosperous and happy. So why not go to the people for a test of your performance? Instead, they are advancing reasons which can't stand up to the test of time for postponing the elections. So while they are thwarting the democratic process, we must keep our eyes on what is happening at the Integrity Commission. We know that the administration is upset with the commission, and the Prime Minister has promised changes. Let us keep our eyes on those changes, because we are not going to tolerate any tearing down at the Integrity Commission. We want the Integrity Commission to be independent of the political process. That is a type of Integrity Commission that we want.
That's Desmond Richards, journalist and founder of Rebel Radio Jamaica. And now, Winnie Anderson Brown, educator and health facilitator.
Most Jamaicans are familiar with the verse of scripture that says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones." And we know that laughter is the best medicine. But I'm going to read a verse for you that I'm not sure many people are familiar with. And this is Proverbs chapter 26, verses 18 and 19. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is a man who deceives his neighbor and says, "I was only joking." I bet most people are not familiar with that Bible verse. Why is that important? We have often heard that what is joke to you is death to someone else. And that is true. And that is why it is very important to point out that it is not a good thing to make fun of other people. Jamaicans love that. When someone is very tall, we call that person tall man. When the person is short, we say shorty. We tend to reduce people to what is perceived as a disability or something out of the ordinary. And that is unkind. So someone who is blind is called blindy. Someone with one leg is called oney, or some such names. And people laugh. Let us not do that anymore. Be kind, not only in words and deeds, but with our laughter. I am sure that older people know this poem and young people should learn it. This memory gem, I should call it. Politeness is to do or say the kindest thing in the kindest way. Let us remember that this week and be kind to everyone. And when we laugh with kindness. Laugh to heal and not to hurt.
That's Winnie Anderson Brown. Thank you for liking and sharing this podcast. And remember, it just takes a click of that button to subscribe. On behalf of Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown, I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.
For a crown.
Ever wanted to share what you know about a crime but were too afraid? At Crime Stop, we make it easy for you to report on crimes safely and 100% anonymously. All it takes is 4 simple steps. First, contact the tip line at 311 or visit www.crimestop.org or www.311tips.com. Then share what you know anonymously with one of our trained counselors. Any information related to criminal activity is accepted. We don't want to know your identity. We don't record calls or use star 69, and there is no way of tracing tips over the phone or online. You'll also be given a file number for your tip. Next, track the progress of your tip by calling our tip line at 3